What's up, nerds? Welcome to episode 60 of The Bandwagon Fan. This is a show where we talk about all things pop culture. I'm AJ.
I'm Alex.
I'm Kate.
And we like to say Happy New Year. Guys, we did it. We made it to 2023. New year, new us. Except it's not a new us. It's the same us. New year.
Same back pain I had from last year carried into this year.
Oh, yeah.
That's new pains to the back pain.
Yeah, new pains to the back pain. My back pain has evolved to other parts of my lower back. So
it's kind of like vacation days. You know, you use it or lose it. Otherwise, it rolls over. Your pain rolls over. You know, to the new year.
Roll over. That's called getting older, and I really don't like it.
I'm not familiar with it. I don't know if anyone knows. I don't age, so I'll just keep my age out of this conversation. Just
you should probably keep that like secret to yourself and not say it on a podcast. But
yeah, you know, it won't come out. It won't come back to bite me ever.
Okay,
guys, we watched a movie over our vacation, over a holiday. It was called Glass Onion.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys heard of this movie? I hope so.
Oh, yes.
About it.
I feel like it's like all I've heard about. I've heard about it for a while. We probably all have, and anybody listening right now, if you haven't heard about it, this movie came out September 10th of 2022 at the Toronto Film Festival, and then it was like 2 months later in theaters for just 1 week in late November, and then finally on December 15th, it came to Netflix, and now it's been like in Netflix's top 10.
It's been so frustrating, though. I tried so hard to watch this movie in theaters, and I just I couldn't watch it in time, and I didn't know that they were only releasing it for a week. I think Netflix did a really piss-poor job on only putting this in theaters for 1 week. I think they would have made so much more money, and I knew other people that wanted to see this in theaters, too.
I don't think they gave a damn whether people watched it in theaters. I think they did it for the Oscar qualifications. You know, in the past, Netflix movies have been either excluded or ridiculed because they haven't had a theatrical release. Mm-hmm. And so I think this is Netflix's, to put it as Alex put it, piss poor attempt to appease the Academy so that they can say, well, it was in theaters, you know, that kind of thing.
I wonder if it was like,
but it's so weird,
the bare minimum that they could put it in theaters for.
I think so. I think it was. I agree. Yeah, I mean, this is directed by Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson, I think, most notably filmed the Last Jedi film, but I knew him before because way back in like 2012 or something like that, my English teacher made us watch a movie called Brick. So that was the first Rian Johnson movie that I watched, and I remember being so mad because I had to go find this really niche movie, but it was really good. And
I really disliked that film. I watched it for the first time last year.
I thought it was good. Now, mind you, this is a long time ago, so I haven't watched it in a long time. But
it had good reviews. I just was never into the film, but I think, from my perspective, I think it's really, really neat seeing how far he's come since this film.
Well, he also directed Looper, a movie that I really love, a really, really good sci-fi movie.
I loved Looper as well.
Yes.
Really, really good sci-fi movie. So the for those who don't know, Glass Onion is a sequel to a prior film called Knives Out. So this is kind of like in the vein of Sherlock Holmes. You know, one main character being Benoit Blanc. He is the detective. He's, you know, essentially Sherlock Holmes without the name Sherlock Holmes. Yes. So he's the first movie. You know, we didn't talk about that movie on our podcast, but
I don't think the podcast didn't exist yet, right?
Yeah, I don't think it existed when that one came out. So
the first Knives Out came out in 2019, and that one made a big splash as well because it also had a all-star cast. It had Jamie Lee Curtis and
Chris Evans,
and now famous Ana de Armas. That was like her debut, and a lot of other.
I think Blade Runner.
Yes,
it came out beforehand, but yeah, that was like her big starring.
You know, Michael Shannon and Toni Collette were also in Knives Out, who are also two amazing actors, and that movie was really, really good. And I remember when hearing that they were going to be making another Knives Out, I was pretty excited because the first one was just like so good. I remember in the first film just being completely suppressed at the end. So
Yeah, great film. I don't know. I was a little hesitant when I saw that they were gonna make like at least 3 of these movies, but I think after watching this one, I was like, let's just make like 100 of them. Let's just see where this goes.
Well, yeah, I think these movies. I think the critical part is that they're very light.
Mhm.
These movies between Knives Out and Glass Onion remind me of, let's be honest, an older style of filmmaking where it's not trying to be serious. It's not trying to be the best film of all time. It's just fun. It's just a fun concept, and you can see the actors are having fun.
Mhm.
Watch, being the people that they are. Everyone's having fun in the movie. I think these movies, sometimes we need these types of movies when we have so
Mhm.
many movies that are like way too serious, way too,
Mhm.
they take themselves too serious. You know what I mean? So I think that's why it makes these movies fun.
Mhm.
They're just interesting.
Yeah, and all of the drama scenes in these movies never feel too heavy. Like it never gets
Right.
too dark. I really do feel like they're a movie that it's like very all ages. But this one was really to me different because the first Knives Out is like a family that are trying to figure out how a relative of theirs died and if somebody in the family murdered. This one is more like a group of friends on a giant vacation kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, why don't we get into the plot a little bit because this is like a completely new story, which I'm really glad that they decided to just go in a totally different direction. Because the first movie too is kind of like in the winter time somewhere in the
Mhm.
States, and this second movie is like
In
in
Greece.
Greece,
Yeah,
and
it's in
it's like
Greece. Yeah.
beachy.
Summertime, beautiful weather.
Right. Yeah. Very different scenes. Very different colors used between the two movies. This plot, honestly, it's not the deepest. The movie starts off with our main characters.
Mhm.
We have Lionel, I want to say. He's a scientist working for a company that's supposed to be, like Tesla, that kind of thing. He is working for a guy named Miles Braun. Miles Braun, again, supposed to be like Elon Musk, billionaire, rich man who, has a lot of successful companies and a lot of people that look up to him, that kind of thing. We
Mhm.
have Duke. Duke is kind of like your pod bro. uh,
Oh, you know who he's like?
hmm
He's like, the Joe Rogan. He's a Joe
Joe
Rogan.
Rogan
Oh, like
slash,
totally.
Yep,
yeah, like he's just this online persona who,
and he's very
has a very masculine, presence, and he has this girlfriend Whiskey, who she's just kind of there, hanging out.
She's
We
like
have,
his side chick, basically.
yeah,
she's his trophy girlfriend.
Yeah.
trophy girlfriend. I think that's a good description. We also have Birdie J. She's this, fashionista, fashion icon.
Controversial because she's a little, what would you say? I guess she's kind of a little bit of a ditz, but that's kind of what
Yeah,
is her charm. She gives me like Kardashian vibes where it's like Kardashians are almost famous for being famous, but also famous for being controversial and kind of
correct.
stupid. But yeah. Now that
Um,
I'm thinking about it, all these characters really are almost like an exact play on people from our real lives.
yeah,
They're
100%. Yeah,
jerks.
it's a direct commentary, right?
Mhm.
We also have Claire. Claire is this soccer mom turned politician. She's the governor of, I don't remember what state, Connecticut. Okay, she's
Connecticut.
governor of Connecticut. But she has this real, rags to riches type path. And then we have Andy. Andy is the mysterious former CEO of the same company that
Alpha.
Alpha, the same company that Miles had started. They started together, and we recently find out that they've been outed. So,
Mhm.
Miles Braun, aka, every time you hear Miles Braun, you haven't watched the movie, just think Elon Musk, because they'll give you a really good depiction of the type of
Like a
person this
spot
is.
on example.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He does this thing every year since Alpha went public, whatever. So that at this point, I think that's 10 years in the company's life cycle, that he every year he throws this big event with his friends. And this year's theme is a murder mystery. So he sends invitations to all of his friends. And we, I think, just as a aside here, as we move through the story plot here, I think the movie did such a good job of showing us what each of the characters are. You know what I mean? Like it did such a good job of like showing their depictions in, I would say, like 5 minutes or less.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like Lionel is kind of like the very curious scientist. Claire is a little bit of the uptight conservative soccer mom, like you said. Birdie is the ditz. I mean, but it's funny because some of these, I think we forgot to mention that Birdie also has a guest, a +1, and it's her assistant Peg, who you can tell is like the smart assistant who's kind of not really appreciated and really wants to shine in her own light one day, but is still like living in Birdie's shadow. And then who else do we have? I mean, and then like we said, we have Duke. He's kind of like the jock. It's just, and the joke girlfriend, Whiskey. It's all like you said within 5 minutes.
We know everything we need to know about these characters, and so like it, our main character Benoit Blanc, the detective from the series, also gets one of these invitations. So they all are headed to a Greece on a yacht, and they all meet up and they all have this this meeting of friends. And some things that were kind of interesting to note too. This happened during COVID. Apparently, I think they filmed parts of this movie during COVID. So,
do you know if the COVID line was like, did they make the plot about COVID? I wonder, because
I don't know. I haven't looked it up, but I had to. If I had to guess, I would say they probably were filming during COVID.
Yeah.
And so then, I read they actually started filming in May of 2021.
So that was actually one part that kind of, I don't know, annoyed me. I was just like, oh, great, another COVID film. But I kind of forgot about it, like, after the beginning scene.
Yeah, so I don't think they really made that big of a deal about it. I think they just used that as an excuse for the backdrop that they had. You know what I mean? Where they're isolated, that kind of thing. So we get a really fun cameo of Ethan Hawke, who is Miles Braun's I don't know, assistant, and he just pops everyone a COVID vaccine. I love that. I didn't
notice that was him actually. I started reading it online.
Wasn't it really funny in their mouth? He just kind of was like,
he's just spritzing. Yeah, he's spritzing. I love that. I love that scene. I thought that was really funny. And the shocking part of this section is that Andy shows up, and so Benoit is trying to figure out, like, why is everyone so, I don't know, distrusting or shocked that she shows up, but everyone's just like kind of stunned that she shows up. Andy's played by Janelle Monáe. Janelle Monáe, thank you. And so she's stunning, she's beautiful, and she shows up, and everyone's like, dang, this just got real. So Benoit, he's probing some questions because he's not really sure why he's here to begin with. So he's just, doing his detective thing. He's probing, asking the questions. And then we land on the island and we meet Miles Braun, played by Edward Norton, which I felt was so fitting.
Oh, he's like, I think he's
perfect.
So good.
He's the perfect prick. He can play a prick very well.
Very, very well.
It was like his role in Birdman. I was like, it's just like that at times, like
almost exactly like it, but with money. But with money, right? So perfect,
like, rich asshole.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, he is in real life, so it's not hard for him.
Maybe he wasn't even acting. Maybe he was just doing it.
I don't think so. I think he was just being himself. But Miles Braun is he brought everyone to this extravagant island, and he's wowing everyone with this monument to a memory. The Glass Onion. The Glass Onion is a bar that they all when they met, that's where they met, at this thing called the Glass Onion, which Glass Onion is also, I guess you could say, like a pseudonym or foreshadowing for the theme of this movie. And so he brings them to the island, and he basically says, hey, it's us. It's us for the weekend. Let's hang out in this murder mystery. And then all of a sudden, he sees Andy come off the boat and he's like, whoa, like, what are you doing here? And he's a little shocked, right?
But she seems like she's playing it cool. She's very
yes, playing it cool, playing it very chill. He tries to make it, he tries to not make it awkward, but it's already awkward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So everyone goes to their rooms, and Miles pulls Benoit to the side and says, "Hey, man, I'm really happy you're here. Why are you here?" And Benoit's like, "I thought I was invited." And Miles is like, "No, you weren't invited, man. But I'm glad you're here.
Yeah,
come to stay." And they proceed with the day as normal. So we fast forward a little bit of time. Everyone's hanging out at the pool. This scene wasn't super important, but we do get some bits and pieces of the conflict, I guess you can say, that every person has with Miles. Birdie is uncomfortable about the attention Miles doesn't give him. Duke is just wonderfully Duke. Duke is Duke. Everyone, we're learning bits and pieces of what the problem is.
well,
and so
interesting too, because every character they all seem a little uncomfortable around Miles, and I think that's because Andy then comes to the pool area and basically calls them all out at one point. She calls them all out for they rely on Miles's money, and it's kind of obvious that over the years now, the friendship is no longer a friendship between all of them. It's become that Miles is the puppet master, and they are all his puppets.
And they all know it.
And they'll know it, but it makes it uncomfortable, but nobody wants to say it.
No one wants to say it. And it's even more uncomfortable coming from her. Because as we kind of learn a little bit that the company was taken from her, from Miles. And so we're trying to put it together well, then what's the link, right? So we fast forward even a little bit more time to nighttime, and Miles brings him inside the Glass Onion. And it's it's a museum. It has all these crazy expensive works of art. And in the center of the room is a Mona Lisa. And Miles tells us that his life goal, his life dream is to, be mentioned in the same breath as a Mona Lisa. And he's like,
such a pretentious thing to say.
Such a billionaire thing to say. Such a billionaire thing to say, right? What an egomaniac.
Yeah.
But he has the Mona Lisa in his onion. And everyone's just like, you are insane. And he's like, and so they're kind of like, Miles, why do you have this here? And he's like, because of this. And he pulls out a little rock. And this rock is a hydrogen, basically a pure hydrogen in crystallized form, which if you don't know anything about science, super dangerous, right? So he's like,
instantly Lionel, the scientist friend, looks the most uncomfortable, followed by Claire, the politician. And they start criticizing him, which is interesting because we just said a few minutes ago, everybody's kind of under Miles's money control.
Yeah.
And they're all of a sudden are mad at him, but also kind of freaked out. What are you doing? And
it puts a damper on the mood, puts a damper on the night, because they realize that yet again, Miles is doing what he wants to do, doing something what they know is reckless. It's putting Claire's political career in jeopardy. It's putting Lionel's actual career in jeopardy because their names are attached to this. And he kind of just brushes it off, and he's like, "Hey, man, don't worry about it. Let's eat. Let's have this dinner party, murder mystery party."
He's like, "Don't worry, dude. It's just hydrogen.
It's just hydrogen. Yeah, don't worry about it. Don't sweat it." And so we get a hilarious scene where he's very excited. He tells us earlier in the movie he paid a lot of money for all this to kind of go down. And at the dinner party, Benoit just instantly figures out the murder mystery. And it makes everything really awkward because the whole weekend is based around this murder mystery party and figures out in a second. So, Miles takes him aside. He's like, "What the hell, man?" And Benoit tells him, he's like, "Look, I ruined it on purpose because after being here for, 8 hours, I think it's very stupid for you to invite all these people to a remote island. There's no one here but us. And all these people have legitimate reasons to kill you." Because again, Benoit doesn't know why he's been summoned to this island. So he's now concerned that hey, I'm here because someone's trying to do something and use me in some type of way, whatever.
Yeah. And just
But
in case we didn't mention it earlier to any of our listeners, Benoit is a detective. His job is that he is a detective. And it is a little suspicious that a bunch of rich and famous people are having a murder mystery party, but then a real life murder detective gets invited.
And at this point, he is already a famous detective.
yes, he's already a famous
because
detective.
of,
Yeah.
the first movie. So like he's already well known. So that makes it. I thought that made it more mysterious.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good point. And so, Miles being Miles, he just shrugs it off. And at the same time, downstairs, Andy again confronts the group. We get a little bit more of the conflict, and essentially, they may have had a hand in her losing half of the company, and they're kind of just telling her like, you need to get over it. So she angrily leaves. Miles comes back downstairs with Blanc. Everyone's kind of dejected at this point. The party's ruined. Everyone's kind of just reminded how much of an asshole Miles is. Everyone wants to go home. Miles is like, guys, come on. We're here. You're already here. Let's just party. Let's hang out. And then we get the first kill.
Well, because Duke is he's like, let's party. And he chugs his drink. And within seconds, he's choking and
chokes and he dies. Okay, and that's when that's when this party goes off the rails. Benoit's trying to he's like, quick, call the Coast Guard. They're like, oh, they can't get to the dock because the dock is built with ice. It's really funny, but the dock is built on ice, so they can't actually dock the ship, so they're stuck there till morning. He's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. They notice that the gun is gone that Duke always has on him. They're like, crap.
Duke was like waving a gun around when they were at the pool at the beginning.
Yeah. So he always has his gun on him. It's gone. And then the lights turn off and everyone starts getting really, it's uncomfortable. If you were stuck in a house with a murderer, the lights turned off, a gun's missing, I'd dip too. I would go find a corner and hide in that corner. So in the chaos, everyone kind of makes this assumption that it's Andy that killed Duke because she was the only one not in the room. And so everyone's, kind of, I don't want to say looking for Andy, but we don't know what's going on. It's just chaos. And Benoit bumps into Andy. And for whatever reason, Benoit doesn't suspect Andy of anything. He's actually trying to talk to her when from the shadows, we see somebody pull out the gun and they shoot Andy in the chest. Andy starts bleeding out. Benoit calls everyone inside. He's like, look, this is getting out of hand. I already know what's going on. I've kind of known since I got here. And then we have the flashback. The flashback reveals something very important. Do you want to explain, Kate?
Sure.
What the flashback is?
We find out that all along, this has not been Andy on our beach vacation, but Andy's twin sister named Helen. And we find out, okay, this is where might actually need AJ to tap back in. But we find out that Andy is in fact dead. Can I say the word murdered? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead. Yeah, I mean, she's been murdered.
Right?
Okay, yeah, she's been murdered. But Helen doesn't know who did it, but knows that it must be somebody who is at that weekend. Correct. And so when the invitation arrived at her twin sister Andy's house, Helen took it as the opportunity to attend to see if she can find out who murdered her sister. And then we find out all along that Benoit is at this party, not totally like, why am I here? That Helen hired him to attend as well because she wants his help in solving her sister's Mr. Murder.
Such a good idea, by the way. Yeah. Such an actual thing a detective would do, because he tells her, don't put her death in the news yet. Just hang off as long as possible, so that we can buy us some time. Because one of the things Helen realizes is Miles Braun is Elon rich. Like, she's never going to be able to have the resources to just make an accusation without some kind of evidence. But her sister, what led to her death was that she found this napkin. Long story short, the dispute of who owned the company came down to who wrote the idea on a napkin, which Andy unfortunately lost until a couple months after it was whatever the case closed, whatever. After the court hearings and everything like that, she found the envelope with the napkin in it, and she threatened everybody like, "Hey, I found it. It's gonna go down." Next day, she dies. Right. So Helen knows if she can find the envelope, she can find the napkin, she can kind of link it to the murder. She can use that to both go to the police and exonerate Andy, but she can't do that without this subterfuge, right? So we then kind of go backwards in the movie and we see all the places that Helen was as Andy, and we kind of learn a lot of information. We learn everyone's motives, basically. Duke is you know, his YouTube / online career is failing, and he uses his, it's kind of gross, he uses his girlfriend as a
bargaining piece,
as a sex offering,
to
Miles in order to keep his you know, his business afloat. We also learned that Miles is using Claire to essentially funnel and push whatever, you know, lobbying. That's real life lobbying, right? Lionel under the, I guess you can say, too much derision, was forced to kind of already put Claire in manned projects, even though he didn't want to. And he has to take the brunt of it, right? So if something goes down, it's his fault, not Miles's fault. And then Birdie, which, by the way, in the movie, Birdie owns a company called
Sweetie Pants.
My wife then told me that Kate Hudson owns Fabletics. That's the joke. That's the joke. Fabletics, yeah. That's the joke.
Oh,
yeah, so I was like, I didn't know that either until she brought it up. So I was like, that's really funny.
Really interesting.
Yeah, so her sweatpant company was caught using like a very abusive sweatshop, and she's being forced to take the blame because Miles is actually the investor or benefactor of the company. So
didn't she also say a bunch of like, you said like a lot of controversial stuff?
Yeah, a lot of controversial stuff that he's been helping kind of push under the rug. So, you know, we're learning all the reasons why these people kind of have a lot of resentment toward Miles. And Andy's trying to see like, okay, well then, or excuse me, Helen is trying to figure out, well, what does that have to do with, you know, Andy? And so the biggest, I guess you can say, connection is, you know, and we don't have to go through all those parts, but she's trying to, throughout this day, really, she's trying to find out like, okay, one of these people probably brought the envelope to the island with them to give to Miles. And so she searches through all the rooms, but before she can get through all the rooms, that's when the lights turn off from her perspective, right? And so when she's running around, you know, she bumps into Blanc, and he's like, "Hey, look, did you find it?" She's like, "No, I didn't find it." And he's like, "You didn't check one room, Miles's room." She's like, "Great idea." Boom, she's shot. But, and this is the part, this is the part that's a little like, ugh. But like, she's saved because she kept Andy's notebook on her chest, in her coat pocket.
Chest pocket. How convenient.
So convenient. And so it catches,
convenience.
Yeah, literally. It catches the bullet and she doesn't die. And quick thinking, Benoit is like, well, we still have to make you think the killer thinks you're dead. Again, so we have to make him think that him or her think you're dead. And so he takes hot sauce, Jeremy Renner's hot sauce, and he slathers it all over her, himself, to make it seem like it's blood, and then leads everyone inside to buy her time to run into Miles's office. So she runs in the office, and like the idea of a glass onion, that the center is visible the whole time. She goes in the room, and the envelope is literally right there in front of us the whole time. So she grabs the envelope, she goes downstairs, she tries to confront Miles, and she's like, "Hey man, what the hell?" And Miles is like, "I don't know what you're talking about." She shows him the napkin. She's like, "I know it was you." And then he burns it.
Yep. But doesn't Blanc then explain everything to everyone too in the room?
Yeah.
He does. I just didn't want to have to go back and re-explain that. But everyone is made aware that there's a killer. This isn't, that there's a lot going on. And he kind of walks back a lot of the scenes we've been watching along with Helen. And so,
napkin,
he shows the napkin, and quick thinking Miles burns the napkin, and kind of leaves everybody with like, hey, if you want to end this gravy train, go ahead, challenge me, right? I thought this part of the movie was interesting because these people are just so tired of Miles, right? They're so fed up with him. So they really want this to be over with. And so we kind of fast forward just a little bit. And Benoit is kind of just like, well, Helen, there's nothing much I can do. Gives her a little piece of clear. And he says, hey, man, do what you do best. So she proceeds to destroy everything in this room, which is priceless art, really.
She has like how people can pay to go to like those rage rooms where they can get stuff. They get like a baseball bat and they can just destroy. That's at first what it feels like, which is kind of funny because Benoit even tells her like, "There's nothing I can really do for you. Like, I'm sorry." And even I'm like, okay, well, like, what's gonna happen? And she just starts breaking stuff, and you're like, okay, like,
you're like, what's happening? Yeah.
Which eventually some of the other characters start to join in. But then even Miles goes, he's like laughing and he's like, and it's kind of like, dude, like your entire room, your little museum of a room has been destroyed. And he's that cocky that he just laughs and he's like, okay, you got your rage out. Like, calm down. Like,
he's like, keep breaking stuff.
Like, are you done now? Are you done having your tantrum? Well,
I like this scene because it was a literal foreshadowing of his whole disruptor speech. Mm-hmm. If you go back to that disruptor speech he gave when he's just, doing that pretentious rich guy rambling to Benoit, he basically says, there's an infraction point, a point where everyone is kind of just fed up and they don't want to push any farther. And a disruptor is somebody who comes and pushes past that point, even though everyone wants them to stop, that kind of whole spiel. So I thought that was funny that that came to fruition in that form of literally her breaking all these things. And he's like, she starts like getting a little crazy with it. She starts a fire and he's like, all right, you got to chill. And so then she takes the clear and he realizes like, oh, like this is going to blow because the whole island is fueled with this hydrogen stuff. So she throws it and it sets the whole island on fire. Okay. Whole island turns on fire and everyone
is safe though. That's the weird thing that didn't make sense to me. I thought the room was going to explode and they were all going to die.
I thought everyone was going to die too.
It was like a very convenient form of destruction where like everything gets destroyed yet everyone is still incredibly safe and totally fine.
Again, it's supposed to be fun. I don't think it's supposed to be taken seriously because they should have been dead. These people should have been turned to just Rice Krispie treats. Like they all should have been burnt to a crisp. But
which I'm not going to spoil it, but there was another movie that came out this year that had a very, very, very similar ending.
Really?
Oh yes,
I think Kate knows.
Oh.
The movie The Menu, similar ending, but that's all we're going to say. Similar.
Okay.
I'm just going to say, okay. Another movie that had a similar ending called Triangle of Sadness. So 2022 was the year of
your destruction.
Let it burn.
Endings. Let it burn endings.
That's funny. That's really funny.
Let's just throw Midsommar in here. Like what else?
Yeah,
what films are we missing?
Let's just throw everything. Let's put everything on the table and burn it. And the funny thing is, I think we all kind of knew where this was leading up to because she looks at the Mona Lisa. Miles looks at the Mona Lisa. Everyone looks at the Mona Lisa and they're like, don't you dare. And in a really funny scene, she's running toward the fail-safe button that opens the glass box the Mona Lisa's in. And she burns it. She burns the Mona Lisa. And so Miles is like, now this is what sets Miles off, right? And he's like, I can't believe you did that. You're insane. And she's like, hey, you got your wish, man. Now you're as famous as the Mona Lisa because you're the idiot who burned it down.
Yeah. And I took that too as like now his clear is never going to take off because.
Correct.
Exactly. It's like if this burned down to Mona Lisa, then no one will ever want to go near.
Yeah. Who would want to go near it? And it burned down the whole house. So it's like, this isn't even safe to live in. And and it was kind of Benoit's way of being like, look, I have no jurisdiction here. So see no evil, hear no evil. He's like, there's nothing I can do at this point. But at the same time, there's nothing I can do at this point. Wink, wink. And so that's why he kind of turns his back to this,
And
let's
walks
call it,
away. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so coincidentally, Miles is looking at everybody and he's like, all right, well, and everyone kind of is like, it's kind of their way of saying like, we're done with you. They say like, we saw you burn the napkin. We saw you leaving Andy's house after the night she was murdered, that kind of stuff. And they're all insinuating that they're willing to lie to put him away, even if they, lie to tell the truth, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. It's like they're all finally becoming free from Miles Braun.
Correct.
And it's a good ending. And then and we end with seeing in the distance the police in their police boats are finally on their way.
Yeah.
And Helen has gotten to the justice for her sister, Andy.
Yeah.
And we get to have our nice little murder mystery all along.
It's fun. I don't think it's supposed to be heavy. I don't think it's supposed to be serious. I think it's just supposed to be fun, and I think the mystery of it is what makes it fun. We didn't even really explain how the mysteries unfolded, because I think that would just take too long and be really convoluted. But by all means, if what did you think of the movie as a whole, especially the ending?
I mean, I'll go first. I think the movie, like you said, it's entertaining. It's very playful. It's fun. And like that's the thing. Like when my family and Alex, we were all together on the couch trying to decide, what should we watch? Doing the typical scrolling around on Netflix thing, and then it's like, oh well, let's watch this. Because it's just something that you can know that for about 2 hours you're gonna just have some nice old-fashioned simple entertainment. You're not going to be surprised by anything too jarring or dramatic or anything obnoxious or stupid. Just a nice, fun, cool story, which I do appreciate it for that. But I think that personally, I feel like the idea of a Knives Out murder, Knives Out mystery, and the plot being so on the nose about being a murder mystery dinner party that has an actual murder and a mystery. I don't know. I thought it was a little cheesy, especially because I felt like the first Knives Out was able to get away without being cheesy at all. And being full of mystery with this family that has a lot of problems all over the will of their wealthy grandpa. And then this one was kind of the opposite. It's like these people are trying to escape the power of somebody's money. But I don't know. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't love it. That's my thought.
See, I actually enjoyed a lot that this was very different from Knives Out. I mean, there's obviously a lot of similarities because it's the same universe and same director, and but I like that. I like that this one almost felt a little more cartoonish. That they just kind of played into the idea of just not everything. I mean, the storyline, kind of made sense, but not everything needed to perfectly make sense. And I just thought it was a fun, hilarious film. I think Knives Out is still better than this one. And I have a feeling that the movies will probably get slightly worse as they make them, but I think I will continue watching them because all the characters are unique and fun enough that it makes me it maybe it doesn't make me laugh out loud, but it makes me chuckle, and I can improve that.
I started off our review here by just saying something very simple, that this movie reminded me of older movies. I don't think every movie has to be the best thing you've ever watched, right? It's really difficult to do the same thing again, but different and interesting. And so I'm okay with this one not being the same kind of murder. You know what I mean? Because I do recognize that if they're trying to franchise this IP, that every single one of these being a murder mystery will take away from it. You know what I mean? I kind of look at it we will probably get some like this that are maybe more lighthearted. You know what I mean? Yeah, but more lighthearted than the first one. Yeah. And I think we'll get ones like Knives Out, which are just I mean, Knives Out is a brain rattler. Like you're just trying to figure out like what happened until the literal end of the movie, right? So I think it's okay. I think it's okay that like some of them don't do that because I feel like that would just get old. That appeal would get really old.
And I agree with you, AJ. That like really, this movie is just a good movie. It's not a great or amazing movie. And I agree with you. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just having, like I said, like 2 hours of some good old fashioned entertainment. I don't need to be like wowed, but it also wasn't bad. I didn't end this movie going, oh, that was a waste of my time. Like, no, it was good. There was nothing really to think about.
And can I just say the danger of you tying all your movies to a twist all the time makes you M. Night Shyamalan, okay? Where all your movies are just related around a twist. And there's no substance in the movie other than the twist.
Yeah, you're just waiting for the twist.
Just waiting for the twist. And so I appreciate that, like, the twist in this movie was kind of just that, like, Benoit didn't really solve the crime. He was just helping. You know what I mean? Like, that's a more interesting twist because I feel like if it's always just, aha, then you're just going to be like, all right. That becomes
sick of it.
You get sick of it.
It wasn't like, I like that too. I think it would be a little annoying if every movie was, here we go, Benoit's going to solve it. And it's like, he didn't really solve it.
He didn't solve anything. He was just there to help. That's all it really was. And so I appreciated it for that. So I like it. I think it's an easy watch. I don't know if it's rewatchable. I rewatched it, so I can tell you. I don't know how rewatchable it is once you know the back end of the movie. But overall, I think it's a great movie. I think if you're looking for something to watch, January is typically the time of year where we don't get a lot of heavy hitting movies. So, that's a kind of movie. If you're looking for something to watch, go watch that.
It gives you a reason to not cancel your Netflix subscription for one more month.
For now. Yeah. For one more month. Yes. But yeah, let's, you guys, let's get out of here. Kate, you want to wheelbarrow us out? Yeah.
Yes, please. So if you liked this episode, please let us know. You can like it. You can, on certain streaming platforms, you can rate it. You can review it. If you didn't like it, please let us know as well. But most of all, please just subscribe and keep checking out our not videos. Oh my goodness. Wow. Our podcast. See, maybe we should film ourselves sometime for YouTube.
One day we'll show videos.
Maybe one day you can see me play with my hair while we talk. But thank you guys so much for listening, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
The Bandwagon Fan Podcast is hosted by Josh Jimenez, Alex Melgosa, and me, AJ Soy. Our show is produced by Kate Smith and edited by your boy, AJ. Our social media is managed by Natalia Kokulia, and our theme song, Lush Waves, is provided to us by Taylor Lewin of _audio. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.